I want to give you my
on that
rank.
note,
I want to give you my rank
this,
because I thought about this and then I had a kind of an idea where I wanted to put it.
I don't think we're going to fight each other much on this because I think we both agree that, I mean, Nans even said it was like, all right.
It's okay.
I
kind of want to put it lower than Octopussy now that we talked about it more.
Really?
Yeah. There's part of me that's like, there's a part of me that feels that way. And I could go higher up, but it's just like,
you know what? God damn it. You might be.
What really drags the movie down for me is like when we start talking about the stakes and how like how the focus of the movie is just so like lost at the end of the movie, where I'm like, by the end of the movie, I'm like, I just do not care. I don't care about the villain's plot. The villains are so like bleh. Even I like Kara enough, but I don't care about her that much. And when I think about Octopussy and Thunderball and like even the other ones, like Octopussy and like at least we get the really good train stuff. We at least get a thing where we're like, I give a shit. And Maud Adams, I'm like, there's actually kind of an interesting history behind their dynamic. And the villain at least has like something ridiculous. Like I'm a little more focused. I'm like, oh, they're going to get rid of Détente. There's going to start a war. This movie, I'm like, what's their plan? Their plan is money and arms and killing Afghan soldiers.
As a post 9/11 American, I'm all about that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
But the only thing that that maybe changes that is maybe Timothy Dalton's performance, because it's like, okay,
that's
we actually get it. That's the only
literally
thing. It's like we get a Bond that's a bit like a Bond that should be playing a person that should be playing this character versus somebody who's like, okay, you should have stopped a while ago, but now you're still going. That's how I feel, because the writing is so similar to Octopussy that I'm like, I feel like this is worse than Octopussy in those regards, unfortunately.
I thought it was interesting that you guys kept bringing up Octopussy, because I was thinking high end somewhere near Octopussy, low end above Diamonds Are Forever, but
fight me on it, man, because I'm not
somewhere
I'm not like,
in there.
Because the more we talk about it, but there's a lot of good stuff. That's what I was saying. Like there is a lot of good stuff in this movie that maybe like raises it a little bit. Where there's like these really good moments and there's really good acting.
All right. Let me throw mine out then, because if Nans is like as low as below Moonraker,
yeah,
and you're thinking below Octopussy,
I would say higher than lower, but. Okay. Octopussy would be the high end
because
barrier.
It really, what it comes down for me is that like we go on nauseum about the plot and villains are what makes this movie great.
Just keep talking. Just keep going.
Shut.
Just keep going.
I thought you said Bon nauseum.
Bon nauseum.
We go Bon nauseum.
We go at Bon nauseum.
That should be the name of this podcast.
Bon nauseum.
Bon nauseum.
We go on and on talking about the plot and the villains. And there are times when I agree that like we should be talking about that. That might be strong, but then other things are like really tear the movie down. This is one of those movies where I'm like, the plot and the villains really kind of lower the movie a lot for me, because by the end of the movie, I'm like, I just don't care. Like I'm not invested. I don't care at all. And like even there's those good moments, I'm just like, because every time I think about this movie, the things I think about the beginning, I think about Pushkin getting shot, I think about the Bond chase scene, and then I completely forget about Afghanistan. I completely forget about I completely forget about Whitaker. Like most of the time when I think about this movie, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, Whitaker's in this movie.
Because there just isn't enough of any of those things.
No. And I forget about all that stuff. When I think about Octopussy, I think about like the train sequence and the clown. And like, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That was part of the train sequence. He had to get the bomb. And like, there was that whole thing. And that was really cool. I remember all that stuff. And I hate doing that because I think a lot of people will say top 5 for sure. Top.
Well, we'll get to that because pretty much every comment we got was
exactly. But a lot of people are like, "This is the best Bond movie ever."
But it's all because of Dalton. Everybody's citing Dalton's performance, and that's indisputable. But at the same time, I'm always the guy that's like, I'm looking at the story / plot and the bad guys. Back in the beginning, the first couple episodes, I was like, how do you fuck up Bond? Like the performance of Bond is never really going to sway me, because you can just, like, had they picked up Timothy Dalton and put him into GoldenEye, that movie automatically would have been better than this movie because this movie has a shit script. You know what I mean? So like, all being the same, I don't really weigh in Bond's performance because it should be consistent. It's the same character through all these movies. Like I said, Bond never changes. So his performance doesn't weigh in. All the other stuff weighs in for me. Mostly story/plot and bad guy.
The only thing that's raised in the movie up for me is Dalton's performance, and I think the fact that the dynamic between him and Kara, whatever, it works enough for me that I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that. But that doesn't kill the movie for me. The action sequences are very good. So, but the why should I give a shit about this movie is not like, and what do the villains want to really like? Why?
Yeah.
There's not, the personal stakes really aren't.
There is zero
highlighted.
bad guy motivation. Zero. Nothing. Like, because again, why is Pushkin at odds with Koskov? I mean, Koskov being a fake defector is supposed to make us hate him. But like that, it means nothing because it has no bearing on the plot other than this guy wants to buy weapons to fight Afghans. Why would Russia fight against that? I don't need to rehash my whole thing, but it's like there is nothing there. Whereas with the movies around it, like Secret Service, we know exactly what's going to happen. Thunderball, we know what's going to happen. Octopussy, we know what's going to happen. Live and Let Die, we know what's going to happen. We know exactly what's going to happen if Bond fails. Yeah. Whereas with this, a guy's going to make a little extra money to fight a war. I mean, it was a war in Afghanistan. Why is it so bad that they're going to fight it?
It's not so much that we don't know what's going to happen because we have a vague idea, but it's more or less like, is this really going to make a huge impact for me enough to care? And like, that's what's missing. And it's like, you can write a villain who's like a bad guy, but like if his goals don't have a specific thing that really makes us be like, oh crap, yeah, we need to get that. We need to get this, the Solex. We need to get the plans for the thing. We need to stop the bomb. Like if it's not there, then I don't care. You know what I mean? Like it's just,
oh, he's just gonna go buy a yacht. Well, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so let me throw out mine then, because I mean I'm like, oh, I'm kind of feeling what you're saying. Let me just throw mine out though. My initial thought was number 9 below Secret Service, above Thunderball. My thought being, the movie does lack luster and remembrance. It doesn't have an emotional hook like Secret Service, even if, I mean, again, I don't need to rehash why I think Secret Service's emotion fails, but it still at least has that emotional hook. I mean, every time I watch the movie, I still have the feels at that ending, and you have that whole idea of, you know exactly what's going to happen if Bond fails. Yes. Plus, I do like that he's, the whole thing about him being like, "F you, M, I'm going to go do this myself."
Story.
Like, all
there
that
is a
works.
story there.
There's a story there that works. Whereas with this, there's nothing.
It's all over the place.
But it's more competent than Thunderball, with our classic Thunderball having its plot conveniences and a shitty bad guy. And, it doesn't have the stupidity like the death of Fiona. Hang on. It doesn't have that stupidity like the death of Fiona, who was a better bad guy than dumbass fucking Largo.
Yeah.
But overall, you find it difficult to care about anybody in this movie other than maybe just Bond himself, which should be the case anyway. You care about Bond. You don't really care about anybody else, except maybe Pushkin, because he played Gimli in Lord of the Rings. Perhaps if we spent more time with our Bond girl before she enters the plot, she literally gets questioned by the KGB. She gets arrested, and then she just shows up at home. Had we gone in with her and seen her get questioned and see her get grilled and just realize that she's just like this naive, pretty little cello player, and then she meets up with Bond, and like, we needed more time with her. We needed more time with Whitaker. We needed more time with everybody. And as you pointed out in the past, McCurdy, what Michael G. Wilson seems to love to do is to introduce 30 characters to the point where you don't care about any of them, as opposed to 2 or 3 characters and really spend time with them and get to know them and appreciate them.
Wilson loves to do betrayals and people doubling back on each other, but the problem with that is now you're setting up these other things that you have to add to those betrayals so that they all work.
And they don't make sense. So-and-so betrayed so-and-so, and it doesn't make sense.
If you're like judging the movie and like, oh, this is really cool, it's complicated, and it like makes the movie seem more I'm not gonna.
Fascistic. Were you trying to say
sophisticated?
Sophisticated. Great. But
so I was thinking that way, but then you're not. It's just like it's a mess.
Like I said, he just throws so much at you that he hopes you won't question it. But when you do question it, it's like, well, and like you said, even if whether you question it or not, you might just be left with the idea of like, I just don't give a, like I just don't.
That's
care.
How I felt. That's how I feel.
So yeah, my thought was number 9. But you lay out a really good case for lower. Like, because Octopussy, even though Octopussy has ridiculousness and Thunderball has a bad guy, you still are led to care more, even if it's just caring about Octopussy herself or the people in Berlin, the base, or even with Thunderball just caring about Domino.
Is Largo compared to Koskov /
I think Largo's just the worst bad guy
ever.
But
like Largo, okay, so even if he's a bad guy, if he's like the shitty bad guy, at least his plot makes sense.
His plot's
like, okay, it's very clear. He's gonna blow up. He's gonna create a bomb. It's gonna blow up Miami. It's gonna cause a bunch of chaos. Yeah. That's like totally within the Spectre realm. We're kind of on the Spectre story at that point, so we're kind of like, okay,
the Spectre spectrum. I made that joke in the edit, so whatever.
That's
disregard.
It's good. I like
it.
Good.
It's good.
But like it works. But again, like even if he's stupid, it's like, okay, it's very clear. He's gonna set this bomb off. Bond has to stop the bomb. If he doesn't stop the bomb, all these people die. So I'm like, okay, I care. I'm all the water action sequences. I'm like, I'm in. I'm ready to go. Octopussy, same thing. Octopussy is just as complicated and convoluted, but at the end of the day, there's a bomb, and if we don't stop the bomb, people die. And Bond has to stop the bomb. Way before when we started, I'm like, I kind of had it in my head, right? I'm like, oh yeah, Living Daylights is like way up high on the list because Dalton's really good, and this is his first movie. And then I watched the movie, and then I'm like, wait a minute. I don't care about this movie.
About what's going on.
I do not care about this movie.
Number one argument I have with people all the time is that dumbass argument I hate, which is, sometimes I just want to turn my brain off and watch explosions. And I go, okay, that's bullshit. Because if I offered you movie A that has just explosions, or movie B that has story and explosions, you would only ever watch movie B. But then, and this came about with like the rise of the Transformers movies, where it was like, I just like robots punching each other. And I'm like, yeah, but wouldn't you rather have good story along with your robots punching each other? And so I constantly having this argument with people where I'm like, if you just want explosions, go to YouTube, type in things explode, and just watch that for a couple hours. Yeah. Why watch the movie at all? Well, I just want to see robots punching each other. Go to YouTube, type in robots punch each other, and you can watch that for a couple hours. But you go to a movie and you want a story that you're actually going to give a shit about to carry you from A to B. And to your point, this movie doesn't have that, and everybody wants to fall back on, well, Timothy Dalton's good. And it's like, yeah, but again, that's just like watching a bunch of explosions and pretending that that's a good story. And it's not. You want the good special effects. You want the good performances, but it needs to be wrapped up in a story that makes sense and doesn't leave you scratching your head or trying to give a shit.
And like, if I want to go back and be like, okay, like, all right, like, let me defend The Living Daylights, right? Like, what's like, is there a story in there that I'm not missing? Am I missing? Like, okay, there are a lot of people out there will say like, overlooking into plot sometimes leads to like missing the point of the movie. And what I can see though is the movie's more about the relationship between him and Kara. But I don't care enough about it. Like it's
not enough.
I'm just like, I see where they're going.
Okay. Because Bond never really loved her until maybe the end.
Yeah.
Most of the movie, Bond is he's just operating undercover with her, and then I guess at some point they fall in love at the fair for no reason.
And it's like, it's kind of reminds me
of. Do you really believe
that
Bond is ever in love with her? Maybe when they're in Afghanistan and she's hitting him, but like, you really, just like with Romanova, she is more in love with Bond than Bond is in love with her. So the movie can't rely on their romance if Bond isn't carrying his end of the bargain.
Well, it's kind of like Bond is seeing what you guys are seeing. Like, maybe not necessarily in love with Kara, but loving the naivety that she has. And like, oh, I see the world on the daily. And you're like, oh my God, Austria.
Yeah. I've banged a woman in every city I've taken you to. I'm not afraid to admit it.
There's a good restaurant there.
I know a great restaurant in Karachi.
And hot women.
And there, so they got good hookers there.
Wow.
Sorry.
Sorry,
McCurdy, you've been saying things. What are you saying?
On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And
we don't want to hear about Secret Service. But like, you, Nikolai, you and McCurdy should have your own date on a Ferris wheel where you talk about how awesome Secret Service is, so and then a German guy asks if you want another ride. You fucks. Shut up about Secret Service. It's overrated.
Scott,
it's old and it's boring,
like,
McCurdy. Shut up.
Hey.
It's overrated.
What I'm saying, though,
you're
is
lucky
like,
I don't push to put this movie above it.
But it's like they were trying to do that approach, and I know you're going to say it's like, well, the love story doesn't work, blah, 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 get fucked. But, you know, it's like they try to do the same thing where it's like they're going on dates, and then there's like, but there's no moment where Bond's like, oh, you know, you're perfect. You're doing an amazing job. Like, you're perfect.
Remember in the opening of the movie where he was saying that if he got fired, he would love it? And then this was the perfect opportunity for him to fall in love and consider quitting his job. And they don't even tie those threads together.
No. So I don't care about this movie. Like, I want to care, but I want to care because I like...
To our point, it doesn't matter that there's a cool chase scene. It doesn't matter that Timothy Dalton is awesome because he is, at least for me, as I've said every episode, it's like, for me, it comes down to story and bad guy. Even Kamala Khan, I think, is better than anybody in this movie. Bad guy wise,
it's like, just a better performance.
Like, you have Necros. Necros is a cool,
Necros is cool, but he's a henchman.
Style henchman. Yeah. But
throwing milk bottles,
but not enough. I did like that Necros had his own theme, like his own theme song was playing every time he killed somebody. The same song was playing in the 80s. Headphones.
That was good.
And then it was orchestrated at the end. That was fun. But again, like, none of this stuff is enough to elevate it. Because again, Thunderball has kind of been our little buffer for like somewhat
good,
less
bad.
Competent movies or below it. And then like, if it's just competent at all, it's above that.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying, that when it comes down to giving a shit,
I just don't care about this movie.
It's hard to give a shit.
I don't. It's like it's like they had all the best intentions, like every movie, but like they never were like, what makes a good Bond story? And unfortunately, the movie that going into it, A View to a Kill, was like, I still don't have great feelings about it, but like they understood
it's still so much better than this movie.
People need diabolical villains, and you need a reason why Bond needs to come in and save the day. And this movie's like vague stakes. That's what Bond's facing in this movie, is very vague.
Just distract
stakes.
the people, like distract everybody with some cool
it's like
stuff.
Someone is like
hope for the best.
Maybaum, who's like super old at this point, is like, Wilson, like, we need to have stakes, and it's like, it's vague. It's okay, old man. Like, don't like, here, let me finish typing this movie because I'm producer now and I can do whatever I want.